Daddy, chill, Daddy, chill.
Ricardo says to me, he says, oh, you're using the old logo and your thumbnail picture of Final Fantasy is shit. You know what? He's not wrong. Today was a very rushed show. I was super busy today, and I was prepping the show all day, and I realized, fuck, I gotta make a thumbnail. So, apologize for the bad art. I guess I should have used AI. I'm about to open up a dum-dum sucker, but it's the dum-dum sucker that's got the mystery, so you don't know what you're going to get. Let's see what we get. Orange, that's okay. It's when you get the root beer that you don't want anything. Oh, I know you can barely hear me. Can you hear me better now? We're going to start in a second, so. Is that better? Come on now. How about this? Can you hear this?
You shut your goddamn whore mouth.
Goddamn right, baby. Come on now. Well, welcome to Gavin Games, fellas. Good to see you. That was, of course, our very own ALXPLOX doing his rendition of Quake Zone Rumble. Thank you for that, Alex. Fellas, it's Wednesday. Tell me how the sound is. People are like, fuck you, wake them up. I'm awake, motherfucker. People are like, Jaffe, the music's too loud. I don't care. I can't handle it. I can't handle it anymore. I get the mic. You can understand me that I'm playing fucking video games, and Spaz in the Discord is like, we don't hear. I don't care. The point is, welcome to Gavin Games, fellas. I hope you're doing well. Fuck you, Grape King. He says, glad you can stop by, Jaffe. What do you think this is? I'm not late. I said we'd start at 3:15. We started about 3:17. Look, man, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a fellow like myself. You have to admit. Let me tell you something. Did I tell you guys? I told you guys I met with the ADHD coach yesterday, right? I have to decide if I'm going to pull the trigger and at least do a consultation and hire her for just like a one session and see what happens. But I will tell you this, Ricardo. I'll bring that up for everybody. Ricardo, I haven't seen this one yet. So Ricardo's been working with a real talented artist for a logo for Gavin and Games for the premium videos, like the interview coming up and the series coming up with the esports coach and a variety of things that we're going to be putting under the premium category soon. He just sent me this. Let's look at it together. Let me pop it up there on the screen here. And let's see what this goddamn thing. Hang on. Let's see what this. Paulo Santos is the young fella's name. He lives next to Ricardo. I think they're neighbors. They're in Peru, if I'm correct. Here you go. Let's see what it looks like. Nice. I dig it. Not too shabby, Ricardo. Thank you for that, and thank him for that. I dig it. That's going to be a lot of fun to put up when we start doing those episodes very, very soon. Yes, totally metal. That's right. Oh, fellas, what's going on? How are you? How are your lives? How is your connection with your soul, with your spirit? That we're going to talk games. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct that I thought was pretty good. We're going to talk about Final Fantasy 16 that comes out tomorrow. We're going to talk a little bit about 6 Days in Fallujah because that goes early access tonight. But I don't want to talk about that right now. I want to connect. I want to connect to fellow human beings on the internet. I want to understand what's happening in all of our lives. Can I tell you something? Ricardo says to me the other day, I'm like, I got to go watch The Great. And I says to the fella, I says, well, what's The Great? It's a show about Catherine the Great on Hulu with Elle Fanning and Nicholas Hoult, who you may recognize as the fella from Renfield or About a Boy. I'll tell you what, that show's insane. We've been binging the fuck out of that goddamn thing. It is so goddamn good. I would have never clicked on it to watch it if Ricardo didn't say, dude, the fucking show is crazy. But it's nuts. It's absolutely fucking nuts. And it's delightful. Yeah, Awesome Tatum. Well, 6 Days is out tonight in early access. Fuck it, we'll talk about it briefly now. I mean, the issue with that game right now is that they're launching early access on Steam. And they are going to be only 4-player co-op versus AI. And eventually, as early access moves down the road, they'll start adding squad mates as AI. So if you don't have a squad of 3 other people, you can't even really play it tonight. Plus, they're like, there's not going to be any of the story. It's a big nothing. I mean, I'm a very big believer in using the interactive medium to tell documentary stories through gameplay, but more and more this is starting to look like it's just sort of a generic shooter that is intercut with cutscenes of soldiers who are there talking about it. I don't think it is going to be that big of a deal. But again, I was going to buy it tonight and play it, and then I was like, oh, fuck it. You're telling me I got to fucking have the 4-player thing and there's no AI? No, go fuck yourself. Ubisoft X Defiance sucks, says Alex S. See, I heard that was pretty good. Ubisoft X Defiance, I believe, is the free-to-play Ubisoft shooter. I don't know if it's Battle Royale or what the mode is, but it's using all of the Ubisoft cavalcade of characters, right? So Sam Fisher's in it. I guess some of the Assassin's Creed guys are right. It's kind of like a Smash Bros, but it's a shooter from Ubisoft. That's what X Defiance is. A lot of people have been telling me it's pretty good, but you're the first person I've heard say it's really crappy. What was the shooter I played in beta recently that was... It was actually kind of cool. It was a third-person shooter, multiplayer only, and you had... It was you know what it was? It was there were very small levels, but it was still Battle Royale. So you only had like 16 players, but it was Battle Royale. And so it was a very different kind of cadence. And it was from a big publisher, but I don't remember who it was who put it out. It was like with spies and espionage and all that as sort of the background. If anybody remembers what it's called, please let me know. Awesome says 6 Days in Fallujah early access does have 4 missions you can play as a single player, but not the full campaign. Okay, well, I don't know. I'll wait and hear what people think. I have so many goddamn games to play. Eddie T says, I've been playing Halo Infinite because of the new season. I have heard great things about the new season of Halo. I have heard, for some reason, and I don't have any specifics, that the infection mode is really, really good. No, it wasn't Friends versus Friends. It wasn't that. The infection mode is pretty good. I hear that they're starting to go a little crazy, which I think is necessary for their cosmetics. Because if you remember, for the longest time, a lot of the cosmetics in Infinite, if you played it, it was it was clear they didn't want to color too far outside the lines. But that's the only reason I fucking want any cosmetics in a game like Halo, is I want to, like in Call of Duty, I can get an operator skin where you're literally wearing an Easter bunny hat, like you're a furry, like you have a mask on. Or I can get like this dude who's like a marijuana guy, and when you kill people, marijuana leaves spawn everywhere, and he's literally got a gas mask into a bong. It's absolutely crazy, right? I wanted that in Halo, and apparently they're doing that as well. Halo's going to be a very interesting, Halo Infinite is going to be a very interesting story to look back on, because to Microsoft's credit, they are continuing to slowly push this fucking massive Indiana Jones style boulder up the hill. And season 3 I played a little of. I enjoyed it very much. I don't play it a lot anymore. I don't know if Forge has really become a big thing like I had assumed it would. And then season 4 apparently is the best update they've released so far. Eddie Torres, tell me something. I know Eddie Torres always tweets about how unfair the matchmaking is in that game because he's really good at Halo, and he's like always feels like he has to carry the team. But that said, though, are you noticing, Eddie T, that there's a lot of people in Forge and the game has, a pretty good player base now, or is it kind of on its is it kind of dying? It's kind of dying. I'd like to know, but I'm gonna play it a little bit tonight, I think, if I have time. Caps Lock, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, what do you think of Operation Lovecraft? We're not supposed to talk about that in public, sir. I would remind you of the contract you signed with Halliburton, and that's all I'll say about that. I don't know what the fuck Operation Lovecraft is. Let me Google it. Operation Lovecraft. I don't know what this is. Operation Lovecraft Fallen Doll, a Cthulhu mythos inspired erotic roguelike tactical game. That's with VR support. Sir, that's a little too much. It's a little too many buzzwords all at the same time. I'll bring it up on the screen though so we can all look at it and learn together. Operation Lovecraft. Hopefully it's not going to show anything filthy. Filthy and sexy time. Hang on, I'm going to show it to you guys. Internet screen, there you go. Okay, this is Operation Lovecraft. Oh God, let me watch this off screen for a second. Jaffe, it's a naughty game. I'm about to find out. You guys can hear it. I'm not going to show you anything. Damn, look at the sexy ladies walking around without no clothes on, with guns. Dr. Anya, the neuroscientist. Look at that, Erica, the operative. Look at her sexy little thing, wearing her little sexy little outfit. Here they come, fellas. They're walking down the runway like models, but they got guns and cat ears and little maid dresses. I'm not fucking with you. That's what I'm looking at on my screen right now. But what is it? There's no game. There's literally no game. Fuck it, I'll show it to you guys. This is nothing bad. You want to see it? It's a game about race science. I don't know what that is. Like races? Like, eugenics? Is that what it's called? Eugenics? Eugenics. Look at this. I'll turn it down, though. You've already heard the all. I mean, there's nothing in here that's like R-rated. But it's and I don't see much Cthulhu or Lovecraftian inspiration here. So what is it, man? Who popped in to ask me? Caps Lock, what do you know about this? Why do you care about this? I mean, I'm not saying it's not good, but I've never fucking heard of this thing. Are a lot of people out in the world playing this and loving this fucking thing? There they go. Look at them walking all sexy and shit. Wasn't that's all you get. Wasn't Lovecraft a phrenologist? I don't know what a phrenologist is. I'm looking at the ladies now. Wow, they're attractive CG models. I'd, have the sexy time with both of them if they were AI. Come on now. All right. What is it called? It's called Operation Lovecraft Fallen Idol. So, Jaffe, my kids are around, says Alex S. They love the Papa Jaffe. I love you too, kids. You kids are knuckleheads. This goes out to you.
How dare you?
That's exactly right, Alex S.'s children's. Phrenology. I don't know what that is. I'm not a very smart fella, as you can probably tell. All right, I want to tell you a story real quick. This was up on... yes, Ricardo, I will bring up my volume just a bit. This was up on NeoGAF today as a topic. And it's this fella who likes to go by the name... Fox McChief. And he says, what aspect of Starfield excites you the most? And he says, you know, there's base building and piracy and taming creatures and combat. And I don't care about that. I don't want to talk about Starfield anymore. I'm very excited for it, looking forward to it. But, you know, it really is fascinating to me that games have come so far that if you were to go back maybe a little over 10 years ago, and I'll tell you about a meeting I had with Phil Harrison about this. If you were to go back 10 years ago or so, and you were to propose a game that had all of the shit that Starfield has, or a lot of games, but Starfield right now is sort of really repping the most of it. It's got every fucking thing. You would be laughed out of a meeting room, right? I remember sitting in a meeting about the Incognito games, the Twisted Metal 2012 game, and Warhawk, the remake of Warhawk. And it was Phil Harrison, you know, of Microsoft and then Stadia, who was running the place at the time. And so he was being pitched these games. And after we were done pitching Twisted Metal, he turns to Dylan Job, who you guys know, who runs Lightbox. And great guy, great developer, great designer. And he pitches Warhawk. And he just kind of goes on and on and on about, we're going to have this, we're going to have that, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And Phil stops him halfway through and says, this is Phil's accent, I guess. He says, what part, he doesn't sound at all like that. What part, when are we going to get to the real-time strategy game? And Dylan's like, what are you talking about? And he says, well, you're fucking putting every goddamn thing in the world in this game. You might as well put that in there as well. And back then, that was the response you were met with when you had this level of ambition. Today, this is expected. I mean, the teams were smaller, the budgets were smaller, but, you know, now when you hear people talking about what No Man's Sky turned into and what Starfield wants to be, that seems like they're nailing it, at least from the people who've played a little bit of it last week. It's not like, oh, well, yeah, the driving is shit, the combat is shit, but it's, you know, it's in there for the tone. The real game is the stealth part, right? It's like, no. If you listen to IGN, who spent an hour with it, they're like, look, the ship combat and the exploration and the building, all of it is top of the line. It's not like they gave short shift to any of these. They're all great. They're all great as standalone pieces. So we've come really far. We've come really fucking far. And then it's impressive. And it's also a little scary. Not in a bad way, but just like, fuck. Riding herd over a project like that, I could probably do it when I was younger. I could do it. Like, if you listen to that Kojima interview he did with Keeley from Tribeca in New York for his documentary, we talked about Kojima the other day, he was saying, he's like, look, you design and direct games in your 20s, you lead kind of your producer in your 30s, you lead studios when you're in your 40s, and when you get into your 50s and 60s, it's time for you to kind of be on the board and be the executive, right? And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. He clearly doesn't agree with that either because he's directing. But ultimately, though, yeah, can you imagine the energy and the commitment away from almost everything else in your life that you would need to be a genuinely effective and good director on a game like Starfield? I want to know. I want to know how Todd Howard's marriage is doing. Maybe it's doing great because she's like, hey, bitch, keep the money coming. You can do whatever the fuck you want. And the goddamn motion picture or the TV show Catherine, or The Great that I was talking about, Peter, her husband, the king of Russia, gets her a lover because he's like, look, I just want you to fuck you to make a baby, but I'm not really interested in trying to keep you happy. I have a country to run and other people to fuck. So maybe that's what they got. I'm not assuming Todd Howard has his wife a lover. Just where my mind goes, folks. Did I take my medicine? I haven't taken my medicine. We get to do it together. Hang on. Check it out. It's Ritalin time. Okay, it is 3:40 right now. And I want you guys to clock how long it takes for this shit to kick in. I'm going to take the Ritalin. Hang on. Just make sure I got it right here. People are like, Jeffy, what are you doing? Shut up. Fuck you. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my dad. Hang on. Where's my Ritalin, man? Todd lets her play Skyrim and she's happy. Can you imagine? But I'm just saying to you, that it's like, how can you actually do the job of Todd Howard or whoever really is riding herd over that thing and have a normal life? How can you be a dad? How can you be a husband? Any of that shit. Lord Garth says it's meth time. You goddamn right it's meth time. But for people like me, and I was tested, I'm a genius. People like me, you need it, you know? For people like you might get addicted to it, and it's like meth or crack. Okay, here we go. So this is the afternoon dose. One Wing Angel says, is it slow release or instant? In the morning, I take Concerta, which is slow release, but it starts to wear off. My brain chews through it relatively quickly. And so then these are like instant to carry me through early evening, and then I don't need anything. I was like, why am I feeling so weird? You are weird. Well, Plex says single guy with no family. Maybe. I mean, certainly when you hear Kojima talk about it, you know, in your 20s, that probably works for you. And then you start getting a family, it becomes impossible. Anyway, the point is, though, Phil Harrison says, hey, when are you putting the RTS into Warhawk? And at the time, Dylan was like, you could tell he kind of wasn't planning for that kind of response when they had a Sony PlayStation. But we ended up getting into a little, we've changed. So now these days, Phil Harrison would be like, shut the fuck up, you tall fuck. You know what he said to me once? I got to tell you real quick, then we're going to move on to actual news. He said to me, I think I've told you the story. We won Game of the Year at the DICE Awards for God of War. And we were all drunk as fuck. And we were all just having a great time and going up to suites and shit in Vegas. And we get in this limo, me and Tim Moss, the lead programmer, and Shannon and Phil Harrison. And I was so fucking drunk. And I'm not going to lie to you. You guys remember Zoe Flower? Zoe Flower was there. And she was up in the suite too, and I was like, I'm gonna pick this woman up. I'm like, she was married, I was married, but I was so fucking drunk, and she was so cute, I didn't care. Point is, though, I get in the limo with Phil Harrison and everybody else, and he says something, and I don't know what he says. He says something, and I says to him, I say, all right, mate, and you should have seen it, man, the color. Like he was just one of the boys all night long. And then the minute I made fun of his accent, he looked at me and it was almost like the drunk thing was an act. And it's just like he says, watch it, mate. He did not like that. I'll never forget it because I'm like, wow, that was a fucking turn on a dime. Ricardo's giving me a note that says focus. Come on now, I want to tell you one quick thing before we get into some PlayStation news. The latest edition of the Gavin Games newsletter is up. You can sign up for it right now. There's a link below in the About This video. It goes out usually once a week. There's all kinds of fun stuff. This week we've got a brand new exclusive message talking about all kinds of interesting stuff as it relates to, I don't even remember what I was talking about. Something about Liza P and all this nonsense. We got new thumbnails. You can vote on them. We got Richardo's Corner. We got a bunch of videos, old and new, that you may have missed. And it goes out, and it's important for you to sign up to. I'm not gonna fucking lie to you. Here's why I want you to sign up to it. There's two reasons. Can I just fucking be honest with you? Always am. Reason number one, and I don't spam you. It comes once a week. Reason number one is because we're gonna start selling ads to the show outside of YouTube, in terms of like lead us and stuff like that. And so part of what we're offering is getting ad space in the newsletter. So the more people we have subscribing, the more chances are that they'll pay us, and the more chances are that we get to keep doing the show. The other part is if YouTube ever cancels me, because I'm a very cancelable fella, depending on the way the wind's blowing, I will be able to reach you all with a single non-spam email and say, hey, I'm going over to Kick, or I'm going over to Twitch, or I'm going to stream on my butthole. I don't fucking know. So there you go. Ravno says he has seen me drunk. Where have you seen me drunk? Have I met you in real life before? You've seen me stoned, but you've never seen me drunk. Oh, at the Playboy Mansion. Were you at that shindig? The Playboy Mansion? Here it is. Here's the newsletter. So, go get it. God damn it. Treat your Papa Jaffe to a subscription. Come on. Well, you don't have to pay for it. It's free, but you know what I'm saying. At the Playboy Mansion, I was very drunk. Can you believe that? That was the day. Watch it, mate. Yeah, that was the day. Those were the days where I could go to press events. I mean, it was so fucking different, man. And I'm not saying it was better, because there's a lot of good shit that's been cleaned out of the industry because of, very important and just crucial shit like Me Too and everything. So I wouldn't go back. But man, they didn't give a shit. They're a big fucking company, and it's just like, yeah, go get drunk and go hang out with the bunnies. Go swim in the grotto if you want. I don't give a fuck. Listen to this. Man Cave's been a member for 8 months. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. He says, howdy, Jafster. Have you gotten around to Mario Wonder yet? It's basically him on hallucinogens. I don't know if that's the story. I think every Mario game is him on hallucinogens, but we will be talking about that in just a couple of minutes. I did see the trailer. I thought it was the Knees Bees. Dark Saya has been a member for 12 months. Thank you, buddy. He says it was a pleasure to help. I don't know what he's referring to. And frankly, not because it was a while ago when he wrote that, but because I saw it when it came in. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. But thanks for helping. But I don't know what he's talking about. Bacon Magma, believe it or not, we will be talking about the submarine, the Ocean Gate submarine, a little later in the show, especially as it relates to video games. Ricardo says Jaffe's selling the newsletter short. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that's the main reason it exists. There's some cool stuff in there, updates on what we're doing, Easter eggs. No, there's great stuff in there. I'm just saying that I just want to tell people why we really need them to sign up for it, but we're going to make it entertaining. Okay, let's talk about some news. Sony PlayStation of the Cincinnati PlayStation family has released some data. It is the first year of the updated PlayStation Plus. I've rarely met an infographic I don't like, and they put one up today, and I want to share it with you because there's some really interesting data in here. They tell you in the last year the most popular day people played their PlayStation. Can you guess what it is? I'm going to give you a 5-second delay to cover the buffer, then I'm going to say it. Let's see who gets it right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 4 3/4, 5. Sunday was the most popular day that people played on their PlayStations all throughout last year. Okay, yep, Mitch Doe got it. Sunday, that's right. July was the month that had the most hours played. Eddie T said Friday. See, I would have guessed Friday too. But Sunday, I guess, makes sense because, the week's over, you're getting lost. I don't know. And you could always come up with some reason why a day's more popular than another. But no, it turns out it was Sunday in July. Okay, listen to this. Japan was the country where they played the most hours per person on the game catalog. The top 3 games that were played on not just PlayStation in general, but just PS Plus, right? So if you subscribe to PS Plus, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, one of the best games Sony's ever made. I adore that game. JW says it's Sunday for PlayStation because PlayStation gamers are heathens. That's right. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is the 3rd most played game. The 2nd most played game is my favorite superhero game of all time, which is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Looks like the number 1 game was Stray, which I haven't played yet, so I can't really talk smack about it. It just never looked that interesting to me. But that's the number 1 game played on PlayStation Plus. The top game for trophy hunters was Ghost of Tsushima. This one was the most fascinating to me, though. You know how the series, the system has a catalog, like back catalog of games that have come out for PS1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. The year that, or the number of games in that catalog from the year that was played the most, okay? I'll give you some of the examples of the games that were in that year. Brink, Ratchet and Clank, All for One, Duke Nukem Forever, Star Wars, Lego 3, Rage, Phineas and Ferb Across the something dimension, I forget what it was called. 2011. Out of all the years they have represented on the PlayStation charts, 2011 was the one that people played the most of. I don't know why. Resistance 3 is on there. Infamous 2 is on there. That could explain some of it. I don't remember 2011 being a particularly strong year for games in general, but perhaps I'm missing something. And then the game that was the top for trophy hunters, the second game was God of War 3. God of War 3. All right, there you go. That's some data for you. Listen to this. I have a bone to pick. My friends. If you don't believe me, if you think I made all that stuff up, you can find all that data for yourself over at PlayStation. So it's all right there. Okay, I got a bone to pick, fellas, and it has to do with credits in video games. Look, I was a teenager when Ferris Bueller came out, which, as far as I can remember, was the first movie ever that had an after the credits sequence. Right? Marvel's made it really famous, but the very first one was Ferris Bueller that I can remember. And so it's not like the charm of them is lost on me. But I will tell you, since Marvel has made them incredibly commonplace, it's created kind of a pain in my ass when it comes to video games, because the credits are getting longer and longer. Sometimes I wonder if they need to be that longer, if it's just ego stroking on the part of the developer and the publisher. Like, look how many people want to fuck you. It's not important. If you ever look at some of the credits on Sony PlayStation games, it's absurd. It's people who had very little, if anything, to do. They just happened to be the lawyer for an office that fielded a development question. Well, I was the lawyer at the time, so I need a credit. Fuck you. But anyway, the point is, though, it creates this kind of anxiety. It creates this kind of tension of, well, I want to skip this shit, but if I skip it, maybe there's something at the end that really will only allow me to see it if I don't skip it. So it's not like you can skip it. Like Resident Evil, you can skip the ending, the credits, and you'll still get whatever the New Game Plus or whatever they put there at the end of RE4. But some games you may not. Well, listen to this. Today they announced that the Cyberpunk 2077 credits, okay, which were already the longest credits in video games at a whopping... let's see, 3,500 people, is now jumping up to 4,100 people. The credits now will be 40 minutes. 40 fucking minutes if you want to watch all the credits. And what would they have to put at the end of those fucking credits to get you to give a fuck? Right? And I understand, well, let people have their time in the spotlight. It's no spotlight. No one watches them. And even if your parents are over for the holidays, like, Mom, Dad, I want you to see that I watered the plants in the legal office that once filed a copyright for Cyberpunk. I don't know why he sounds like that. They're like, okay, honey, well, wake me up in 30 minutes when your fucking credit comes in, because it's a fucking 40-minute credit scene. And so, and because now there's, I know it's a minor thing, but it's a bone. I'm picking a bone. Now, because I'm worried about skipping the fucking things, put it on. I'll, wake me up when they're over. I'm going to go, I don't know what I'm going to do for 40 fucking minutes, but I'm not watching it. Conglomerate says they have to give me $50 to watch 40 minutes of credits. I get people want their time in the spotlight and they need a way to prove they did it, but here's a better idea. On the website of the game that you worked on, have a thing called credits and have them scroll up if you want, but more importantly, have them, if you type in the name, if it's like, oh, Mom, I directed this game. Sure you did, honey, whatever you say. Okay, go. David Jaffe. Oh, you did direct it. You're my big boy. My mom never talked like that, and she never said I was her big boy. But adrenaline's kicking in, baby. Ritalinine's kicking in, baby. Sunday. Game Boy, thank you, buddy. He dropped super chat, says, Jeffy, you're my Phil Harrison. You're my Phil Harrison. Don't let anybody ever tell you otherwise.
I would like to rear up and jackknife my legs and kick you both with my foot bone.
It's not untrue, but I still love you, Game Boy. But you have 40 minutes. 40 fucking minutes. So I'm debating if I'm going to go back and play Cyberpunk before the new one comes out, because my understanding is that because of the new DLC that's coming out soon, they've also made a bunch of changes since even the big patch from 6-8 months ago. that really does change a lot about the game. So I got to figure that out if I want to. Who's got the time? Who's got the time? Ravino says regarding credits, just have a wall on the game like a wall for people who died when Dick Cheney ordered an inside job on September. Yeah, exactly. It's true. Just do that. Just do that. Yeah, nobody cares. And even, I'm telling you, look, my brother worked on Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Okay? That is a big deal for me because Indy's what got him and me into wanting to make creative shit. It was probably one of the high points of that career when he had that career, when he was doing that stuff in the movies. And even that, you had to wait 30 minutes to see it. I get that it's important, but let's move on because there's no solve to it because it's a big fucking ego thing and it's annoying. Listen to this. Final Fantasy. Let's talk Final Fantasy, fellas. Now look, the reviews are out. Final Fantasy 16, as of this recording right now, is at 88 out of 100 critics. Comes out in 8 hours, by the way. 88 people who get paid to review games and put them up on the Metacritic have said, we feel collectively we're looking at an 88 out of 100. Great score. Great fucking score. Two things about this. The first thing is, it's really interesting because, I'm buying everything. I almost bought 6 Days in fucking Fallujah tonight. It's not like I don't buy a lot of video games, okay? I read the reviews, and I would have thought that I would have been all over this because, I've played Final Fantasy in the past. I like Final Fantasy. I got nothing against it. And I had heard the warnings about the demo, like, man, yeah, but it's a fucking long as fuck opening, but once you get into it, it's good, blah, blah, blah. But if you read a lot of the reviews, again, I'm not saying like just because the review, look, if you want Final Fantasy, you should be thrilled because it's 88. So go fucking love that shit. I'm not trying to knock Final Fantasy games for you. But the criticism that keeps coming up is the combat is really good, and it's really fun in that, and the presentation is just insanely over the top and wonderful. I've only really seen one negative critique about the mission design, which was like it's just fucking fetch quest after fetch quest after fetch quest. But I haven't seen anybody else say that. But even with 88 positive, the one negative I've been seeing over and over is they're like the story is bloated, it is convoluted, it is bad, it doesn't make any fucking sense unless you're like a hardcore fucking, I don't know what, you gotta be a nerd or you gotta be a aficionado, because I know these are new characters. I don't think it's like this is lore from Final Fantasy IX that you could be familiar with. It just feels to me too much. It feels like not Capcom, Square was like, we want to make this more accessible. We have to grow Final Fantasy to make sure that, the younger generation gives a fuck. And I guess they've done that with the combat and things, but the fact that they literally need a codec to go to after characters are talking to go, okay, if you don't know what just happened, here's the recap of the 40-minute cutscene you just watched. For me, that's turn off. That's fucking turn off. Eddie says they don't understand the new game because they didn't play the last 15 games, but I'm assuming you're kidding because my understanding is this game is not even a loose sequel to any other Final Fantasy game. RPG says I stopped having fun in Final Fantasy at number 10. Force played a few more up to 13 of others, but it feels painful to get into. JRPG Story says Ravnos are always melodramatic and have dialogue that can use trimming. I'm not opposed to that. I liked the story in Final Fantasy VII. I loved the Chrono Trigger story. I don't have a problem with melodrama. And maybe these critics do. Maybe I should just sort of go, oh no, this is over the top, operatic, bombastic, just sort of lose yourself in it, Jaffe. And because I like shit like that. I like that kind of rock opera, over the top shit. So maybe if that's what they're complaining about, that's not how it's written. But if it's like, oh, Jaffe, if you can just settle in to this game and really lose yourself in that tone, perhaps It could be pretty fucking good. Maybe, I don't know. I'll wait till you guys play it. You guys tell me. Ravno says, Jaffe, a lot of reviews from people who are not FF shills said the story is pretty great. Who did you see that from? Ravno says, but the side quests do seem to be super bad according to the majority. So why do you think this is sitting in an 88? Listen to this. Fada drops super chat, thank you, buddy. He says, that's how I feel about Starfield. I'm not buying that bullshit. Okay. I mean, that's great. What do you mean that's how you feel about Starfield, though? Because they haven't come out. No one's talked about. I mean, they've told you the high level of what the story is, but they haven't come out and said it's overly complicated. There's so many characters to keep track of. So what aspect do you relate to Final Fantasy and Starfield that you're like, yeah, that's why I'm not playing Starfield? I'm not quite sure I understand your comment. I appreciate it. Appreciate the super chat. Ravno says, watch a single cutscene and you'll get it. Okay, so let me ask you this. If I play through the demo, and Easy says I thought the story in the demo was pretty damn good. It gives off some Game of Thrones vibes. So if I play through the demo, yeah, that's what I should do then. That's what I should do. Hello, Puppet. Hello, Wolf Play. That's what I should do. Because people say it's filled with fucking cutscenes, and if I can hang with that, then I'll pick it up. I'll tell you this. Liza P, I finished that fucking thing. I never finish games. You guys know that. And I know it's not the full game, but that was a very long demo. And boy, I just squoze the shit out of that sponge. What? It was great. I'm very excited for Liza P. But listen to this, though. This is what's weird. Okay. Fada says what he means is that he worries that, like Final Fantasy 16, some people are accusing it of being bloated. He's saying he worries that Starfield will be bloated. Okay, well, yeah, that would be a problem. Starfield 5-day early access. Now they increase Game Pass price. Perfect timing, Microsoft. I mean, it depends where you live. I know it's not going up in the UK and America, but I'm sure I know it's going up in a couple other places from, I think, $14.99 to $16.99. Okay, but listen to this. So this game comes out, gets an 88. Most people are really excited. Most people are happy. And what's not to love? Well, it is a little weird that it's also on the same day that the FTC comes out. And I am not going to get into I'm so fucking tired of talking about the Activision Microsoft thing. It's just that I'm going to touch on this very, very briefly. Very, very fucking briefly. And then we're going to move on to games because who's not sick of this? But I feel it's my responsibility to bring you this data and talk about this data briefly. FTC says, hey, the fact that Starfield and Redfall are exclusive is powerful evidence against Activision Blizzard's merger. Well, first off, what all Activision needs, all Microsoft needs to do is go, you know what? You're right. You can have Redfall, PlayStation. We'll give it to you for free. Yeah, Silver Joystick says 88 is below PlayStation standards, at least according to Raf Grassetti, who left PlayStation and was on a podcast recently and said that they demand 90s. But yeah, so I just want to make sure I understand the nuance here, because the broad stroke take of this conversation is, so Sony can come out with an exclusive game that will never exist on Xbox, comes out today, gets an 88, and that's no problem. That's no problem, pal. But Xbox comes out with Starfield, and that's powerful evidence against what? They've already gone on record legally and made it clear that legally, if the deal goes through, they are committed to putting Call of Duty for the next 10 years in parity on not just PlayStation, but PlayStation streaming services. So, again, there may be nuance here that I'm missing, but it's one more thing that's just like, it's almost like cannot be true. I mean, it can be true, but I hope it's not true. But it's almost like you've got a person there at the FTC that is the biggest fucking Sony fanboy. And I know this, I don't think this is accurate, but it feels that way. That's just like, I don't want them to have Call of Duty, and that, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Ravno says the FTC stuff is telling. Seems the FTC remembers them saying they did not buy Bethesda to make AAA exclusive games. That's not what they said. That's not what they said. They said it would be on a case-by-case basis, which is why there are still some Bethesda games coming out. On multiple platforms, and why Call of Duty, they've signed an agreement. I'm not saying Microsoft is always the good guy and they don't have any ulterior motives. I'm just saying that this idea that Microsoft's the big evil empire in this case, and Sony sitting there with their 88 exclusive that will never be on Xbox, that they're the good guys. They're the guys in white, wearing the white hats and shit. I don't buy it. Here's what I do buy. I hope to God that they stream this. This is the Met Gala for West Wing and video game geeks. That's a weird fucking little alchemy of humans. Phil Spencer, Jim Ryan, Bobby Kotick, and more will testify at FTC versus Microsoft and Activision hearing. I don't know if they broadcast these or stream these, but boy, I hope they do. Wouldn't that be a fun stream to watch and get high and make fun of and talk about? They got Pete Hines, head of Bethesda, is showing up. They got Sarah Bond, Sarah Bond. They got Bobby Kotick, Big Bag Bobby Kotick, a.k.a. The Devil. They have Phil Harrison, Phil Spencer. They have Maddie Booty. They got the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella. These are some big players. They got Jimmy Ryan, Big Bad Jimbo Ryan is showing up to the goddamn thing. This is going to be something. Can you imagine if somebody bombed that hearing and they were all in there together? Absolutely nothing would change at Microsoft. They still wouldn't ship anything. But Sony might, then Sean Layden would come back in and go, I don't know. I think Riddle's kicking in. Fuck you all. RPG says, I'm sure Final Fantasy will appear. It'll be on Xbox because it'll be a timed exclusive. I don't think they've announced that, but fine. Then have Xbox say that. Fine. I'll tell you what. We'll give you Starfield if you pay for the development 3 years after we launch it. Fine. Come on. Something's fishy. Something's fishy. I don't believe this shit. Something's going on there. There's a person, says Ravnos, at the FTC, who knows Microsoft's track record. Just Google Microsoft antitrust. I understand that, but ultimately, at that point, then what you're really doing is sort of Minority Report precognition, arresting people before they break the law. If the FTC has seen Microsoft's track record and they have been dealt with legally, and they are now who they are now based on how they've been dealt with, you can't go to a company and say, we're not going to do this because people who aren't even there anymore, a lot of them in the past did this. And yes, they paid their debt to society. Yes, they paid the fees. Yes, they paid all of this shit, but I don't trust you. And so that is going to rule the day when it comes to the legal decisions. I don't think it works that way. And if it does, that sounds horrible. No, it's not literally the job of the FTC. The job of the FTC is to protect the consumer, to make sure that companies don't end up with so much power that it ends up fucking over the consumer. So today, for example, there's also a lawsuit that the FTC filed against Amazon, saying that Amazon has basically been playing in bad faith to trick people to become members of Prime and making it very difficult to unsubscribe from Prime. That's the job of the FTC. Or is to protect the consumer. But the FTC has not explained why this is protecting the consumer. It doesn't make any sense. So, well, because in the past they've done some bad stuff. Well, did they get called out and punished for it? Yeah. Okay, well then that's done. No, because they could do it again. Well, that was Bill Gates' era, and he's gone. No, come on. Let's move forward, shall we? I want to tell you something. Today, and I did not wake up at 9 a.m. to watch this, or 7 a.m. or whatever it was, because I love Nintendo historically. I'm a fucking insane fan for Tears of the Kingdom. But other than Tears of the Kingdom, they haven't really been doing much for me since the Wii U generation. And I don't mean the hardware. There were some really good games on the Wii U, and the 3DS is one of my favorite systems of all time. The Switch era hasn't really delighted me all that much as Nintendo first party goes. But today they did this Nintendo Direct, and they did drop a couple of fucking good fucking things. And I want to talk about Mario, of course. I want to talk about Mario as it relates to how Nintendo seems to consistently be able to put out top quality goodness. But before we get to Nintendo, which kind of leads to Capcom in some ways, I just want to show you I want to show you a couple of quick trailers, only like a minute long, of some games they showed that are not even, one's first party, the other two are going to be on all the systems, that are really exciting to me, okay? The first one is one of my favorite 3DS games ever, which is Luigi's Dark Mansion. This is going to be getting an update and coming out on the Switch. I know the last Luigi's Mansion, which was excellent, where he could turn into the green goo and all that shit. I fucking loved that game. I don't know which one's better, but they're both fucking great. And don't make the mistake I did. Luigi's Mansion on the, what was the first Luigi's Mansion on? The Wii or something? That game I never thought was very good. Like the very first Luigi's Mansion I just thought was stupid and kind of boring. But Dark Moon and then the one they just put out a couple of years ago for the Switch are two of the best fucking adventure games of the last generation and this generation. They are delightful. I'm thrilled that this is coming and getting kind of an update, a paint job. Okay. Then there's this game. Now, the reason this one's interesting, this is called Penny's Big Breakaway. It's going to be on all the systems. Don't worry. Don't worry. You get to play it even if you don't got yourself a Switch. GameCube. That's right, Steep T. GameCube is what came out on. So, Penny's Big Breakaway is coming out. This is from the guys, or at least the director and the lead designers who worked on Sonic Mania, which I think is one of the few high-rated new Sonic games in a long time. And this looks pretty good. It's from a team called, who are these guys? I looked them up. These are the guys. Evening Star. Hunter Bridges, game director, Brad Flick, design director. These guys both worked on Sonic Mania and another Sonic, but 86 Metacritic, not too shabby. Not too fucking shabby, okay? Here's the trailer for Penny's Big Breakaway. It's basically about this, it's about this girl, Penny, and she's got this yo-yo, and the yo-yo gains sentience, and it begins to do all these crazy powers and abilities that you race around with Penny controlling the yo-yo, right? So she can ride on it, she can do tricks, she can do stunts, she can do platforming. Kind of looks a little bit like Klonoa, but in more 3D space, whereas Klonoa was 2.5D. I don't know if it's going to be great, but if you look at the pedigree of the designers involved, and if you look at just what you're seeing here, I'm excited for this. This looks pretty fucking good. This looks like a good time. So this will be coming out, I think, this year or beginning of next year. Her name is Penny, says for Sizzle. I'll pass. Yeah, fuck you. Look at that. There's some fun mechanics you can do with this goddamn yo-yo. Come on. I dig it. I dig it. Look at that. Oh, I just want a good... How long has it been since we had like a really good old school 3D platformer? Because even Mario Odyssey, I got to tell you, I liked Mario Odyssey, but I didn't love Mario Odyssey. This looks more fun than Odyssey. And I think it's because it's just, it feels a little bit more focused in that here's your platforming challenge right here. Whereas Mario Odyssey was a little bit too open for me. So this looks pretty fucking cool. That's Penny's Big Break. Comes out, I believe, 2004. That was announced today. And again, you know, past is prologue, right? So these guys made one of the best Sonic games the last 10 years. So check that shit out. The other one that I cannot wait to play is Headbangers. It is I just want to show you the trailer, and I'm going to play the audio, so I'll shut up for this. This is a battle royale game that is a rhythm game. Look how charming and fun this fucking thing looks. I'll shut up.
Listen. Play. Listen. Say you. Say
Now, if you're not watching and just listening, you're like, what the fuck? So this is coming Halloween Day. Hey, fuck you guys. Fuck you guys. Silver Joystick says this is a nightmare. For Shizzle says this definitely looks like a game. I did play Tinykin. Yes, I did. This is cool, man. It's from a group who has made, I think they're called something like Grilled Cheese or Chill Cheese. They have made a rhythm game called Music Story that was more kind of emotional like this. But this is basically Fall Guys, but instead of platformers, it's Fall Guys with rhythm mini games. And it's Battle Royale, and it looks fucking delightful. How are you guys saying no thanks to this? How are you saying no thanks to this? This looks awesome. I will not be playing this alone, Cyclone. There's lots of people like me with taste out there. We'll all be playing it together. Yeah, if you don't like rhythm games, sure. But, you know, what kind of fucking monster are you that doesn't like rhythm games? Jesus fucking Christ. Okay. I want to talk about the delightful elephant in the room. I see what I did because Mario turns into an elephant in this game. So I'm going to show you the trailer and then we'll talk. I'm not going to show trailers all day. I'm just going to show you. Boo, no thanks. Boo, no thanks. Alex says, fuck you. Okay, before we move on to Mario, express yourself. Talk to me about why what you just saw with that musical rhythm-based battle royale has you not interested in playing it. Is it that you just don't like mini games? Do you not like things like WarioWare? Do you not like things like just rhythm games in general? And if that, okay, I get it. But is it the art style that turns you off? Is it that all the characters are pigeons? I've never seen a rhythm-based battle royale before. So, express why. No, Silver Joystick, that's not art. You know, if you were in a college class or even a high school class, maybe even a junior high class of literature, and the teacher's like, well, Silver Joystick, why didn't you like the Scarlet Letter? Here's what he says. Silver Joystick goes, it was pure 100% cringe. What the fuck does that even mean? I mean, I know what you're expressing, but what's bad about it? Benji Martinez, thank you, buddy. He's been a member for 32 fucking months. He says NASS. AS, not ass. Are you saying it was ass? Ricardo says maybe you've never seen it because it's stupid. Here's what I've never seen, Ricardo. I got nothing. But the point is, Ricardo, fuck you, okay? I hate Raving Rabbids, Ravnos. I fucking hate the Rabbids. I hate the minions. I hate the rabbits. I think they're stupid and crap. Stupid and fucking crap. Blades and Watches, thank you, buddy. I tell you what, Blades and Watches, I appreciate you joining the Diet Soda Soldiers. So number one, thank you for that, buddy. But number two, Blades and Watches, you better fucking be here to defend me because these motherfuckers look like they're pissing me off. Bacon says, I'm not a fan of Battle Royale games. Gameplay looks uninteresting. Okay, that's fair. It's not bad per se, says a Wood, but it's not good enough for me to pay money. If it's a free-to-play game on PlayStation, I'll play it. Joystick says, I feel like cringe pretty much sums it up. I could elaborate, but is it really necessary? I don't think you could elaborate. I don't think you could elaborate why it doesn't look good, because what's cringe about it? You don't like rhythm games? You don't like mini games? Come on now. Anyway, Alex says, Jaffe, I can't jump from Diablo 4 to this kid's fingerhead game. I wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if it's that, like, I mean, you can jump to Mario, though, can't you? I mean, is they're just cartoony pigeons. You know, they're not like, I don't know, they're just cartoony pigeons. What's the problem? Anyway, all right, let's move on. Super Mario Brothers Wonder was revealed today. So the last trailer I'll show, I'm not all about showing the trailers, but it's only 2 minutes, and I think it's fucking, fuck you, Ricardo. I think it is fucking delightful. Ricardo says, not really, I play real men games. Sure you do, buddy. Sure you do. Listen, this is Super Mario Wonder. I think it looks great. Not everybody does, though. A lot of people are like, oh my God, it's the same shit. This is delightful. Look at this fucking thing.
Onward and upward.
Silver Joystick, if you say this is cringe, I will find you tonight and burn you alive in your bed. Why is this looking so bad? Hang on, that's not acceptable. What's going on? We're playing it at 1080p. My internet's fine. What the hell? Why does it look like that all of a sudden? What the fuck? No, not acceptable. Not acceptable. I'll show it to you on a smaller screen. That's weird. What is it doing? Okay, it's got to be Nintendo's problem. Let me find another trailer of it, because they can go fuck themselves. Here's from IGN.
Onward and upward.
Fuck you, conglomerate. Hate the 2D Mario games? Oh my God, blaspheme. Oh my God, you guys hate the side scrollers. Oh, what kind of gamers are you? This is like hitting Casablanca but being a movie fan.
Roll, roll, roll!
Yeah, it's Super Mario Wonder. If you hate this, you need to wonder why you're so fucking stupid. Yes, got him. Look at that. Look at the detail. Me too, Blue. Come on now. Here's the money shot.
Wowie zowie! That Goomba looks so surreal. Well then.
Okay. So I want to. First off, I think it looks great. I think it looks imaginative. I think it looks unique. I think the attention to detail, like that little flower that talks, or when Princess Peach or Daisy, I don't fucking know who it was, who is fighting with the guy, which I assume is a mini game or something where they're pushing the pipe back and forth. It looks like, or when I think it was Mario grows really tall, and then he's having to sort of, play the game, but he's like 20 feet tall, but not like big Mario from the Wii game, but like a super stretched tall one. I just think it looks really, really fun. And then I definitely see the complaints. I was talking to Ricardo about this because I says, what is it about? What is it about the Nintendo and Capcom that Nintendo for a very long time, Capcom recently, where they seem to be on this role of really thriving in a very challenging time of the industry, right? In terms of sales and games that a lot of people love. Mutemo, I agree, it looks delightful. And what causes that? So a lot of people will say, like I saw at the very start of this chat, Billy Bones said, he's like, well, Nintendo is, they always make the same shit. And I've heard that. I've heard that, but I don't believe it. To say that, and I didn't even like Breath of the Wild, but to say that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is the same shit is a ridiculous concept. They're very different games. Even this game compared to I'm not saying this game looks genre defining, it doesn't. But if you take new Super Mario Brothers that was on the Wii and the U and blah, 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 every time they step up to the plate, even with a genre that doesn't change, they bring a lot of freshness and newness to it, right? And they bring a lot of imagination working within that genre. And I gotta say, and Capcom does a similar thing. If you look at a lot of their Resident Evil games, like Ricardo was saying to me earlier, they've been making the same Resident Evil game since RE4 back in 2005. You could argue some specifics, but yeah, at a template level, and I don't know, maybe that's what you got to do, man. Maybe with the budgets going through the fucking roof, Capcom is firing on all cylinders, and Nintendo is, because they focus on the gameplay above of everything else. Now, I'm going to run this thought exercise by you, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, okay? But Nintendo can remake Super Mario RPG, which they are. They announced it today, and it looks... I didn't play the first one. I heard the first one's great. But it looks like the same game, give or take, with a new coat of paint. Nintendo can do that because they've always been focused on the core mechanics. It's kind of like if you take a Shakespeare story and you remake it for modern times with totally different, settings and language and all that, but it's the same story. The bones were always good. The bones were always worthy. And Sony has a couple of games they can do that with. I was thinking about, well, what does Sony have where they could just remake it wholesale, not change too much, just bring it up like they're doing with Super Mario RPG. And I'll tell you something, I think Returnal is probably one of the best pure games Sony first party has put out in a very long time. And I would love to see them re-release Returnal anyway with more save points. I know it's supposed to be hard. I think that game could have been a much bigger success because it is a fucking delightful game. It is so well made. It is so good. And yes, I get it's supposed to be hard, but there's a point where I think they went so far out of what is acceptable to be a successful game in this day and age. But that said, they could remake that in 10 years with a new coat of paint, and they wouldn't have to change much. But if you go to them and say, hey, remake Uncharted 2, my guess would be that they would have to do, like they did with The Last of Us remake, they would have to do a lot of heavy lifting under the hood. Not just the visuals, but the actual gameplay. Because so many, I think they've really painted themselves into this corner where they don't focus on the gameplay as much as they should. And as you start to look at Capcom and as you start to look at Nintendo and question why are they able to consistently go on and on and on, even when the game budgets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, there's a number of reasons. But I imagine one of the big reasons that makes a difference is because they started from the ground up with a very good foundation of gameplay first. Dark says, yes, but what about the vision of the dev? Who gives a shit? Is the dev paying for it? You know, there's a balance there, right? I mean, I'll give you another example. I knew this was news, but I hadn't put two and two together. So a couple of years back, Street Fighter 6 was in development, and they fired the director. What's the guy's name? Ono? Famous guy, walked around taking pictures with Blanca all the time, that guy. And his vision was to make it more of a team-based game. And the playtesters hated it, internal people hated it, and ultimately they demoted him and he quit. And they said, but that was the director's vision. But they said, yeah, but our main job is to please the customer, right? And so I don't know if I would agree with you that sticking to the director's vision or the developer's vision is great as long as it doesn't deviate from the vision of why it's being funded in the first place. Ricardo says, I disagree. Gameplay on Sony games are awesome. I don't dislike Sony's games, and I loved Last of Us Part 2, but I don't think they are as I don't think they travel as well, because so much of what they're doing is dependent not on their gameplay but on their presentation. That doesn't mean their games are bad. Are you nuts? The combat in God of War, the new God of War, is great. The stealth mechanics in Last of Us are great. But, you know, it's still mostly built around the bones of presentation. Define Sony's game, says Ravnos. I just did. We're talking clearly about the cinematic games. Returnal doesn't fall within that. I think Ratchet and Spider-Man, surprisingly, are probably very Nintendo-like. So as much as I look at Spider-Man 2 and go, I've been there, done that, you know, I think they're onto something from a standpoint of this is how you have to function in making games today, because they are so expensive and the teams are so big and you cannot burn out teams. You've got to work within a much smaller box. But within that box, where I think Nintendo shines, and at least on the Spider-Man trailer, what we've seen so far, I don't think they shine, is that Nintendo is able to say, okay, guys, you're doing another 2D, 2.5D side scroll with Mario. We've made this game 1,000 times, but every time we make it, whether it's Yoshi's Island or this or that or the other, we always find a way to squeeze out some delight and magic and joy for players. Go. That, I think, is different. Whereas, at least if you watch the trailer for Spider-Man 2, they have the first part right, at least from a big budget game development, which is you've got to build within your genre and you can't change too much after you have your template. But I didn't get any real surprise and delight from Spider-Man 2. So my theory is, you know, Capcom comes along and says, and they've had now, I think, 5 consecutive years of growth. I know it's like 10 quarters, but they've had consistent growth. And it's because they demand quality now. They shut down shit that's not working. And they're building off things that they know. The other thing that interests me about that is, like, this game. Had you heard of this game? Other than a couple of rumors, we didn't hear this game was coming out. I mean, how many things do these guys cancel? I worked at Sony, and even now Shu is saying Sony cancels a lot of games. But do you like that? Do you like that this game was dropped today and it's coming out in, what is it, July, August? It's 3.5 months. Does that work better? Would you rather not know? Like, was there any really value in knowing that Tears of the Kingdom was in production for 3 years? Or would you rather it just be like, ta-da, here's a surprise, right? It's kind of a different issue, but Maybe not, because then they could just kill shit like they do. Who knows what they've had in production? We just didn't know about it. Ashoka, thank you for the super chat, buddy. They say that one person saying Nintendo games are all the same makes me laugh. You can say the same about current Sony, Square, etc. I play Switch and Steam. I think Nintendo... I'm not saying Nintendo is not guilty of sometimes repeating themselves. Of course they are. But I am saying, though, that a lot of people, I would agree, I think maybe what you're responding to, Ashoka, is where a lot of people look at the genre, like a side-scroller, and they look at the characters, and those things are the same, but they don't recognize or appreciate the freshness within those templates that every single one of their games, for the most part, bring. Because I always found that frustrating, too, when people are like, Nintendo just makes the same thing over and over and over. And I'm like, no, that's not accurate. I know what you're saying, but if you're talking mechanically, it's not accurate. Thank you for 12 months being a member, JW. I appreciate that, buddy. He says, Returnal was a breath of fresh air. One of the best Sony games possibly since Death Stranding. I didn't love Death Stranding, but I appreciated it. I thought it was really, really cool. It's just too slow for me. But Returnal, oh, I agree. I mean, Returnal is one, like I said, that is a game that somebody, in my opinion, because I understand, like I said, if somebody at Sony at an executive level should have stepped in and said, fellas, Housemarque, we get it. We don't want to step on your toes. We want this to remain your vision. We want you guys to continue to be motivated and inspired and all that. And it's okay if you want to make this hard. It's okay if you want to make it challenging. But this is going to doom what could be a classic mega-selling game to the wastelands of cult classic if you don't make any changes. I would have forced that fucking team to make some changes. I don't mean make it easier in terms of the weapons and the damage amount and all that, or the health, but to make it so that if you die in World 2, which could be 50, 60, 70 minutes of gameplay, you have to go all the way back to the start. I get it. Some stuff carries over, but not a lot. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. They really sent that game out to die with that decision, and I would love to see them remake it with that fixed. But I agree with you. You should have played through Death Stranding, says Eddie Pie. I would have liked to, but it was too slow. I'm not going to push myself to play a game when I'm bored. Wasn't difficulty an issue with Twisted Metal Black as well? Yeah, of course. But we didn't know any better back then. I mean, this is how new all of us were, even at PS2 times, is that me and it was Scott and Kellen and Mike Badger was like the main gameplay programmer for Black. And we sat there. I'm like, okay, I'm flying out to Utah for the whole week. We're going to tune the game for release. And I sat out there all week long and we tuned it. But you can't tune a medium level of difficulty without getting brand new people playing the game. It's impossible because you have way too many people who are playing it that know too much at a muscle memory level. You can't ask them to be the ones making those calls. At a meta level, sure, but not at a numerical level. Jonathan says, Jaffe, do you think Dark Souls needs an easy mode? No, I don't. Because Dark Souls, I think if I were making Dark Souls or I was Sony and I was publishing that game, I would say that they should have made, and I've only played Demon Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. So let's take Demon Souls, right? Or let's take Bloodborne, because that's even more obtuse, or just opaque, I guess is a better word, than Souls. I would have said, no, you don't need to make it hard or easier in terms of difficulty, but you do need to do a better job not communicating the lore, not communicating the story, not communicating so much that it takes the fun of exploring out of it. But your systems are so confusing, and your systems are so hidden behind, if they're explained at all, walls of text and weird spreadsheet-looking presentation of numbers, that once I played Bloodborne, for example, and I played it on the stream, And it became clear to me what the system of that game was and how even when I sucked at it, I could get better at it because, I can grind my character up and here's where you go to level up and don't worry about dying and coming back to life and having to replay it because, look, there's shortcuts and all of these things where once you understand that, and I don't think that's the joy of the game. I think that's a pain in the ass. And if I hadn't been playing it with a stream of people who had played it and solved it, I would have never fucking finished it. So I wouldn't have said give it an easy mode, no, but I would have said you're making this too confusing for people and it's going to push a lot of people away that would love the fact that this is challenging. Elden Ring was really hard. It sold so well. But I don't think it has a very high completion rate. I also think you're going to see a massive drop in the sequel. Now, again, that's my favorite game of all time. But I knew enough by that point to play Elden Ring that the first guy who gave me a problem was some dude in gold armor on a horse, right? I don't remember. It was like in the very beginning of the game. I don't remember if everybody fights that guy first or what, but it was the first guy who gave me a problem. In the past, I probably would have just wailed on him over and over and over until I died too many times and I would have shelved it and moved on with my fucking life. But I knew now, because of the kind of game it was, that I was going to go off and let me, level up my character and let me find some items and let me fight some other people to learn the combat moment to moment even better. That's why that game was easier. Whereas Bloodborne, I think you're pretty much fucked if you don't figure out, how to deal with the initial things they throw at you. Lies of P does a great job. It's still a little difficult to understand. And they are building on the bones of knowledge that I have from the Souls games or from the From Software games. But they explain the shortcuts to you, and they, what they do that's great. Here's a small change they make. And maybe hardcore guys will hate this, okay? But here's a small change they made in that game. If you play Elden Ring and you die fighting a boss, you lose all of your, whatever they're called, just like all their games, souls or orbs, or I don't fucking know what they are in Elden Ring anymore, I've forgotten. And if you want them back, that's fine, but you have to go back into the boss and you pick them up. But if you die again, you lose them again, and on and on and on. In Lies of P, they drop outside the door of the boss. So if I die fighting a boss, which you will, when I get back to the door of the boss, I can pick up the souls again and choose not to fight the boss. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take these. I'm going to get a 5,000 more, level up, then go back to the boss, right? And that's bullshit. Doomslayer says the Lies of P dev says the game isn't inspired from Bloodborne. Fuck you. They're idiots. They're fucking they're Pinocchio liars, just like the fucking Pinocchio kid. That's horseshit. It's fucking horseshit. Elden Ring does not have a huge finish rate. It has, I think they're at 26%. I will look it up because I want to make it clear. I'm not pulling, what the fuck? I'm not pulling this shit out of my ass. Elden Ring, I spelled it wrong, whatever, completion rate. It's 25%, 26%. Both the PS4, was it on PS4? Here, let's do this one. The data shows a whopping 25.9% have achieved the Age of Stars achievement, while the Elden Ring achievement has a completion of 19%. The Age of Stars is a secret ending. So 26% is not huge. I know, yes, I understand that it is not nothing. Guys, you don't need to school me on this. Ravnos, I'm aware that 90% of gamers don't finish games. I understand that most games do not get finished with a completion rate of whatever, like 80%, okay? But 29% is kind of average, okay? So check it out. Highest completion rate games. Now, Resident Evil has the highest. I've done this as a franchise. Okay, here we go. This is from 2020, but here we go. 8 games. No, that's percentages. We'll do 2020. We'll do 2020. Persona is at 33%. Oh, don't make me fucking slideshow, you fucking morons. Wolfenstein is 44. So this is the top 10. Tomb Raider's 46. Uncharted is over half the people who played it. Uncharted Lost Legacy. Spider-Man's over half. God of War, 51%, the new one. Final Fantasy Remake, 54%. So again, I'm not saying 29% is anything to make fun of or scoff at, but don't come at me like it's huge. It's not huge. It's at best average. Danganronpa, 60. That's probably because anybody who sits down to play that game, you know they're hardcore. And Last of Us Part 2 has a 60% completion rate. So, but the number one game, Ravnos, that is Resident Evil in terms of franchise. Most people finish those games a lot more. Jaffe, Diablo 4 campaign completion has a small percentage, you said last week. The thing I don't get about that, though, is the game just came out. I said that Blizzard had come out and said the number of people who complete Diablo 4 campaign, and people are using it like, see, there's a problem. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a problem. It just fucking dropped. They said the majority of people who are playing it haven't finished it. I'm like, yeah, but how fast do people fucking finish the games? I can't quite find it. Majority Diablo 4 not finished. Okay, let's see. Majority of Diablo 4 players still have not finished. This was 4 days ago. So what, less than 2 weeks? But it's super fucking fun, though. It's a great fucking game. Great fucking game. Anyway, so the I don't even know how we got into the weeds about completion rates and ease. Oh, I think we're talking about Returnal. And talking about how Sony could, if they wanted to, look, I think Sony should. I think at this point, Sony, and I think they are if you look at maybe what they're doing with the service games. But to even, you know, and to be fair, they, you know, Sackboy: A Big Adventure was excellent. I mean, that was Sumo. I think it was a second party game. But to have a couple of games that really are built for single player mechanics based games from the ground up, they could keep pumping that shit out over and over and over. And I do think the closest right now is Insomniac. I think when you look at Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, it's a wonderful fucking game, but it's built on the bones of a game they've been making for 2 decades. I think Spider-Man 2, just like Miles Morales, will be a wonderful fucking game, but I would love to see Insomniac stretch a little more like Nintendo does, using that philosophy of, in order to succeed in this business these days with the scope and scale and all that, we have to build on solid foundations that are a little bit more predictable than we would prefer. But within that limit, we're going to let our imaginations go batshit. That would be great. And hopefully they will. I mean, we haven't seen all of Spider-Man 2 yet, but what they've shown so far doesn't reflect that, though. Jay the Gamer says most people don't finish games because they just look up the ending on YouTube. I don't think that's why they don't finish games. I think they don't finish games because the game loop stops being compelling. You know, it's you have games that are being made that are way too long than they need to be. But gamers demand it, and the business demands it, and so that's what happens. But it's some of my favorite games of all time I didn't finish, but that's just not because the games weren't good, because I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, it's kind of like watching a series that you loved, and after the 4th season, they have 6 more seasons, but it's kind of repeating itself. Do you really want to sit there and watch the whole fucking thing, six years worth of television, when it's like it's the same fucking thing? I didn't cry about the Final Fantasy 16 reviews, Jay Gamer. Fuck you. In fact, what I said was, people were like, well, Jaffe, maybe if your concern is the story is bloated and convoluted, play the demo. And I'm like, you know what? That's a really good idea. So my mind is open. I want to like it. It's sitting at an 88. I got nothing against it. It just, from the reviews I've read, it sounded like it was going to be just this mishmash of fan fiction of like, what the fuck is happening in the story? Wood says, can I get your opinion about why Sony gave up on all the interesting smaller scale games like Fat Princess, Flower, Tokyo Jungle, Patapon, etc.? Well, I mean, I think that's clear. I think it's, you know, look, I mean, one of the biggest tragedies, I'm being hyperbolic, but of game development I've seen is when the game got made, so that's what counts. But Sony Santa Monica was publishing, was spearheading with I think it's Giant Sparrow, one of the best games ever made. What Remains of Edith Finch. It was literally at the PlayStation first party booth for E3 for at least 1 year. And then they said, look, it's just not going to make us any money. So those smaller games, especially, when you had someone like Shuda champion them, and he's still doing it with the indie space, but the cost just didn't merit the interest from the audience. I don't know if you saw this, but today a massive number of people were laid off from the studio that just put out Seasons, right? Which was that kind of arty-farty, I haven't played it, nice art style, guys riding a bike, kind of looks like through a Ghibli environment and shit. People, I think, seem to like it. There was a lot of tension with the leadership there in terms of being abusive and whatnot. But apparently the game came out. It was, I don't know, let's find out what the Metacritic was. But they laid off most of the staff today because nobody showed up for it. Seasons game Metacritic. Let's see. So as of right now, Seasons: A Letter to the Future, it's 76. So pretty good. Pretty good. But yeah, it's just, the amount of money needed to spend to make stuff like that isn't worth it. And there's so many other people making it right now that I guess they just don't see a point. So that would be why. But yeah, they were really good at it. I wish they would go back to that. Not only that, but like a farm league or something that they could grow, I would rather see them kind of grow commercial ideas. Like, I'll show you something real quick. And I haven't played it yet. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of Steam Next Fest. That's happening right now. And in that, let me show you this game, right? So here's exactly what I mean. And this is not going to excite a lot of you guys. And that's fine. It's not, it would be great if it did, but it's not, okay? But the guy who made Severed Steel, who's been on our show from Greylux Studio, great guy, very great interview, love talking to him. His new demo is out, and it's called Echo Point Nova. You can get it for free as a demo right now. I'm not trying to sell you on it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just saying that if you look at a game like this, this is made by mostly one guy, and this is the kind of stuff I would rather see first-party indie games doing, because basically there's just not a big enough audience where to justify most of your games that are indie and that are chance taking being so arty-farty. But to do a very commercial game like this at a mechanics level, like if this came out, remember what happened to Rocket League? Right? Rocket League comes out, Super Battle, Crazy Cars, whatever the fuck it was called, and it was clear eventually it became a great game with a cult hit. And then Psyonix was like, you know what? We have enough faith now because of that cult following. Let's polish the fuck out of this, make the graphics better, do it upright. If this thing fucking comes out, and even if it doesn't sell that well, but it's fun as fuck, which I'm inclined to believe it will be simply based on Severed Steel, or even just take Severed Steel. I'd love to see a company like Sony fund this and then go, you know what? Make a sequel if that builds. Let's do this right. Let's kick this up from A to double A, right? Like, being in a farm league in baseball. Why the fuck they don't do that, I don't know. But it seems like they seem addicted to this idea that every time you make an indie game, it's got to also be arty-farty as fuck. And I don't get that. It's, to be fair, give them props. I don't know if Sony paid for Rollerdrome, but Rollerdrome does fit within that. I thought Rollerdrome was great, but it was a little too limited. But maybe they'll look at Rollerdrome and go, there's enough here that we should, let's do another one. And if we can really grow this, maybe we'll actually kick this up and make it a real player, or at least give it a shot at a AA level. That's what I think they should be doing. Not making another Seasons or Fat Princess or any of that, just because I think it's better business. But, so, hang on a second. You need to play Rollerdrome Struggle. It's good. It's really, really good. I dig it. Let me see what else I got for you guys. Hang on. Let's talk about the submarine thing real quick. Let me get to Wood first. He says, isn't this kind of game budget is lower, so they may still be able to make money with these? Sure. the budgets are lower, but even still, if you're a company like Sony and you make a game that costs $2 million and you break even and you make $12 million in profit, that's still nothing, and it's probably still not worth the cost of the people within Sony that had to spend their time on that versus something that could return a bigger return on investment. So if you make those indie games with a mindset towards these will be commercial indie games, and they will be tonally and mechanically things that could bloom into mainstream AAA hits, then I think it becomes worth it. But if you're just like, hey, if every game, as much as Journey is beloved and Flower is one of my favorite games of all time, I'm not saying don't make that shit. But if that's your main diet of indie games coming out of first-party studios, I think you're really missing an opportunity to create the next big stable of intellectual property that your studio can exploit for decades. Submarine. I have not bought the new Alien game. I'm going to. I want to play that very much. Submarine games spike on Steam as the search for the Ocean Gate vessel continues. I tell you what. I mean, that's a story I'm not going to get into. I don't have all the data. If you, at a very high level, there's a company called Ocean Gate. They've been selling $250,000 seats on this teeny tiny little submarine that fits like 4 or 5 people. I don't know if it was always designed to go to the Titanic down below, but it definitely goes to lots of places. But the current one is going down to look at the Titanic. They've lost contact with it. They probably all died instantly. There was probably some malfunction, and the pressure just collapsed in on them, and they were gone before they knew it. But there's also a possibility that they're still alive. There's a 1% chance of finding them. One kid is 19 years old. This may be the end of his life. It probably is. Imagine how terrifying this fucking thing must be if you are still alive. But Submarine Games spike on Steam as search for Ocean Gate vessel continues. There's a guy who made a game called Iron Lung, which was a horror base game. Ravenu says this is the 5th trip. Yeah, I know they fired a guy last year who worked for them, who said, guys, this is not safe. You can't take this down to the fucking Titanic. It won't work. And they fuck you, they fired him. So, I mean, come on, man. But so Iron Lung is this game. You can get it on Steam. I have not played it. It's from last year. And it's about being trapped in a fucking submarine, right? So listen, this is the guy who made it. The same guy who made one of the best shooters of all time, Dusk, who now works with what are they called? They also put out Ultra Kill. They put out wonderful titles. David Szymanski, though, is the guy who made it. He says, I definitely see the dark humor in the whole Titanic sub thing. It's just like I made Iron Lung the most nightmarish thing I could think of, and knowing real people are in that situation right now is pretty horrific, even if it was from their own bad decisions. Like, all the jokes I've been seeing are hilarious, but also, good Lord, nobody should have to die like that. And his game, I'm assuming it's starting to sell. Yeah, look at that. This is kind of where it was. And now it is, where are we at now? Now it's selling a lot more. I mean, it's still not selling tons, but comparatively speaking. If they find and rescue them, it's a miracle. Sure. I don't think they will, but yeah. Caps Lock, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. He says, will you play Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk? Fuck yes. Yes, I'm excited about it. I love Cyberpunk and never finished it. At this point, I'm debating whether I go back or not and continue to finish it, or I restart it to play it with all the new updates. I haven't played it in like a year, but I did get that big patch they put out that made a lot of it better. But I will absolutely play Phantom Liberty 100%. But yeah, there you go. Interesting shit, baby. Interesting times. Don't forget, June 23rd, that's Friday. I don't think I'm going to get up to stream it, but I will be talking about it. If you are into Sega has a Sonic Central is coming this Friday. It's Sonic's birthday. 8 o'clock in the morning, California time. It's a sneak peek of some of Sega's upcoming projects, partnerships, and events coming in 2023. So that will be happening in just a couple of days. I want to let you know about. And I also want to remind you that Gabbin' and Games does indeed have a newsletter. And I hope you sign up for it. I hope you sub to it. There's a lot of good stuff over there. Exclusive videos over there. Behind the scenes images over there of games that never shipped. Some games that did ship. Ricardo's got a little section over there. It's good people. If you're interested, there's a link down below in the About This video. But for now, I'll go to the chat for a little bit. I'll talk to you guys for a few minutes, and I'm going to head off. I have I'm doing some consulting work on this very cool game, and I owe them a bunch of notes that I just have not had a chance to get to yet. So I'm going to be doing that most of my evening, but if I get around to finishing, I will. Somebody was asking if I'm going to play some Call of Duty. Let me tell you something. I've had one session with my esports coach, and I'm going to put up a video and stuff, but I just haven't had the time. I'm not saying I'm going to ever be MLG or that I'll ever be able to take down Spaz or that my kill death ratio is ever going to change, but based just on that one session, my ability to survive longer and kill more in Call of Duty has absolutely gotten better. And I'm not going to tell you what he said that I'm using, because I want you to watch it in the video, because I was really surprised that it was like, oh my God, you're absolutely right about that's what I'm doing. Ravnos, what's funny about it? Everybody likes to make fun of this. He says, esports coach, LOL. It's not LOL. I mean, it might be for you, but I don't want to be a professional gamer. But let me explain something. This is a guy who majored in sports psychology. He's a sports psychologist now. He works with professional athletes at a IRL level, and he works in the esports world. His whole shtick is about mental conditioning, and that mental conditioning can apply if you're playing basketball, if you're playing a video game, or if you're just going for a job interview, right? But it's applying this kind of mental state to a video game. It's PG says it's pretty funny. Come on, it's only funny if you think there is something funny about the idea of esports has never really gone down well with me, because the way it's presented, they try to take a lot of the trappings of in real life sports and kind of put it on esports. And I think that is goofy, and I think that's mockable. But I think whether you're, if you have to train somebody to sit down to learn how to use Excel, a lot of people, need information they don't have, right? So I don't know, but maybe you're just worried that I'm going to kick your ass the next time we play Call of Duty, which I will. In fact, fuck it. Right now, you want to pull up Call of Duty, Ravnos? I'll play one-on-one Call of Duty with you. Let's see how I do. But I don't know if you got it all set up. I don't want to take too long on it, but maybe we'll set that up in the future. That's what we should do. Big money involved in esports, says Blade and Watches. Yeah, kind of. I mean, I know that all the esports right now are kind of taking not a bath, but they're kind of scoping down, because it's not sort of what it was in terms of the money making they thought it would be. Jaffe, how would you try and rescue the submersible sub? I wouldn't, because I don't know where it is. If I knew where it was, then that's an interesting question. But I mean, I would have no clue how in the fuck to find it. Okay, but if I knew where it was, if I knew where the sub was, I mean, I'd call experts. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what to do, but I hope to God that they're actually savable. That would be amazing. you imagine? But I don't know. I just don't have. Oh, I saw what you said, Ravnos. I just don't have that part in me where it's like I want to jump out of planes. I want to climb Everest. I want to, I want to have an exciting life, and I think I do have an exciting life. But it's the excitement is based on my definition. Whereas it's like so many of these kind of adrenaline junkie types, it's like, oh, let's just order off the menu. And whenever you see a lot of people ordering off the menu for something like that, it doesn't feel genuine to me. It feels like I'm supposed to be this adrenaline junkie, or I want this and I want to be known as that or whatever. So what is the official checklist of things I have to do to be seen as such, right? That's where it starts to feel a little bullshit. As of yesterday, they only had less than a day of oxygen. So I don't know. I mean, it's over. Anything could happen. Miracles could happen. Maybe, but but I don't, based on the scenario they've laid out of their situation, I don't know how. Alex S., I don't agree with you. Jaffe, just play Modern Warfare 2 every day. You won't need a coach. Again, it's not that simple. There are things. Let me just give you a little tease, okay? How about that? There are habits I've picked up on over the years when it comes to being in certain situations that are stressful. And whether that situation is a real life situation or, oh my God, I'm about to get shot, I respond the same way. Learning to recognize, which is what I was doing with this coach in our first session, how I respond in those moments allows my brain to recognize it and allows me to go, oh, I'm doing that thing I do. And when I recognize it and I stop doing it, my gameplay gets better, right? There's nothing magic about that. So it's not just about upping your muscle memory skills and learning the map. It's about, there's a psychological aspect to it, which is what we're spending most of the time on, which I think is fucking fascinating, man. It's fucking fascinating. All right, fellas, listen, that's Gavin and Games for the 21st. I'm back Friday around 2 o'clock, 2 to 3, hopefully 2. Trying our best to get it on 2 every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Something's going on Saturday. I think I'm streaming something Saturday, but I'll be around. I'm making videos, blah, 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 blah. Sub to the newsletter. Visit our wonderful sponsors down below in the About This link tree down there. And, that would be nice. I would appreciate that. Okay. Be well, my friends. Will I play Jedi Survivor now they released a new patch? I will play it. I will play it anyway. I haven't been waiting for a new patch. I'm trying. I'm overwhelmed with choice in games right now. So am I going to buy Aliens? I shouldn't. I can't. I shouldn't. I have like 6 games I bought in the last month that I haven't even played. Plus I got all these fucking demos on Next Fest. I don't know, so, but I definitely, I already own it. I want to play it. I'd really rather finish Elden Ring and Dead Space first, so we'll see. Fellas, that's been the show. New members, welcome. Super Chats, thank you. Mods, thank you. All the members, thank you for supporting the show and allowing us to do this show, Ricardo and myself. I do appreciate it. Thank you, RPG. I will be back. I'll be all over on the Discord, the internet. You know where I am. I'm easy guy to find. Be well, everybody. Be safe. I'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.